Well, hi everybody, and welcome to Flemington Speedway in Flemington, New Jersey for the 12th annual National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. I'm Roger Snyder along with Dino Alberto. Pleased to be here on a very cool Sunday morning. And temperatures in the 30s, a rather strong breeze blowing. It's not exactly what you would call a wind, but it should make for an interesting morning of racing here. Actually, it'll be starting around 12 o'clock exactly, the time of the race here. The command, start your engines, just given by Marilyn Toll and Dino Alberto. This should prove to be a very exciting race here, as probably the finest and the biggest payday on hand here for those involved in street stocks.
Absolutely, Roger. This is the entire season all wrapped into one big race here. It's the end of the year, the final race of the 1992 season for many of these short track drivers. It's all culminated here this weekend at the Flemington Fair Speedway. It's the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Race of Champions, and the command has just been given the fire engines. We are about to see a 75-lap race here, and it's going to be a dandy. There is, as you mentioned, the finest, the best of the best, about to go head-to-head here to battle for that #1 spot. It's going to be a good one.
And you know, one of the things out here is the fact that it has been cold, and that certainly is going to play a factor out here. It's going to make a difference in terms of getting rubber down on the track. It's going to make a difference in terms of the strategy with respect to tires. One
of the things we noticed yesterday during the qualifying heats is a lot of guys weren't able to hold their own line each time around the track. Many times during a hot sunny day, you see a good driver, he'll be able to keep the same line each time around the track, but I had very good notice that every time a guy would come around and head into a turn, he wouldn't be holding the same line, and that has a lot to do with the cold weather here today. One thing I should point out, though, Roger, once this race gets going, no one's going to worry about weather or anything like that. It's going to be a race to the checkered flag here. We won't be worrying about shivering out here.
From a standpoint of the drivers, of course, that is going to be true. Once the adrenaline begins to flow, these guys are going to get pumped up, and really your attention, your focus as a driver is on the job before you. And the job at hand, which is to get around this 5/8 mile asphalt oval here. Now, Dino, this track used to be dirt.
Absolutely. 2 years ago, at the end of the 1990 season, Paul Kuhl, who is the promoter here at the Flemington Fair Speedway, had to make a very strong decision on whether or not to keep it dirt or go asphalt. Apparently, it worked to his advantage, because he now has landed one of the premier racing events in the country. There's a strong crowd on hand here today. The racers really enjoy coming here. It's a very fast track. Speeds have really climbed since it went to the blacktop here, and we're going to see a lot of that here this afternoon. These street stock drivers, by the way, they're going to be turning laps at over 100 miles an hour, and that is something they're not common to. A lot of these guys are just coming from tracks that are a quarter of a mile, a third of a mile, and we're going to see that all unfold here today in the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Race of Champions.
Now, yesterday, during the course of the qualifying heats out there, the street stocks weren't indeed turning speeds and average laps of over 100 miles an hour. They were hitting as much as 107 miles an hour around this track. Now, when this track was put together, it was established in terms of what is known as a momentum track. And what that simply means is that you were able to get on the gas, never have to touch the brake. When you get in the groove, and by the way, the 5/8 mile oval here is measured, that 5/8 mile is measured in the groove as you make this your way around this racetrack. And just to give you a little bit of what this track is like, this track, as you come down the front straightaway, is 60 feet wide. As you come into turn #1, it goes to 90 feet wide, and it stays 90 feet wide all the way around. There's 13-degree banking here, and it should make for a very fast race here this afternoon.
I think we're just about set to go with this event here for this afternoon. Starting lineups we're going to give to you. Starting in the back of the pack on this one, there's 4 guys that were put in as promoters' options. Brad Boisenoff will be in car number 36. He'll be one to watch to come up from the back. Then Dan Turvish driving car number 8. Shannon Connor, who is the track champion here, in car number 45. And Bob Slippy, he is out of East Concord, New York. They are your 4 starters from the back. And the 40th starter, Roger,
is Jerry Boda. In the number 39 slot is Rick Giannino.
Gary Peddler, driving car number 87, starts 38th, and alongside him, Glenn Tyler in car number 18.
Starting 36, Gino Volanti and Bob Seda will start in at number 35 slot.
Louis Mazzardi in the 64 car, and Glenn Slocum occupy positions 34 and 33.
In spot number 32, Dave Fabiano, and then Glenn Lapolis in the number 31 spot.
Then it's Greg Gastelou and Vinnie Mentum.
Marty Tarzana, Scott Riggleman.
Todd Anderson and Chris Benson starting 24th and 25th.
Then it's Bob Kern and Scott Smith.
Dave Wisner and Tony Sylvester, he'll be one to watch for. He starts 20th.
Howie Brody and Ed Paulino start 19th and 18th.
Jerry Hildebrand in the 17th starting spot, and Rusty Turbish, also a hot shoe here in this event.
Keep your eye on this guy, Chuck Zentarski, along with Carl Thomas.
Matt McCosey and Ray Thice, we'll be talking about him later. He starts 12th.
Ed Bidlock and Jay Stewart, 11 and 10 respectively.
And in the top 10, Jerry Young Jr. starts 9th, and in the 8th starting position, Dave Maycomer.
Then it's Charles Stockery and Vince Brandisi. They're 7th and 6th respectively.
One of the top runners here at Flemington starting 5th, Bruce Cook, and then Thomas Fox, he starts 4th.
Ed Spencer, Joe Orlando, and Mark Tooker on the pole in that order. And as they come around turn number 4, they'll be looking for the green flag, this time by.
There's a lot of adrenaline now beginning to build as they come by 2 by 2. You'll watch and see right before they get to the start-finish line, about to let them go, and the green flag waves. The 12th annual National Park Peddler Street Stock Classic is underway, and there's a lot of pumping and banging going on already. Ed Spencer got into the rear of Joe Orlando going into turn number 1. And I'll tell you, he put on a dynamite show yesterday in his qualifying heat as we watched the 99 car, Mark Tooker, who took off from the pole. And it's Tooker who will lead lap number 1. Then the 34 car.
This is a 75-lap race. It's going to take these cars 46.87 miles around here, as we've got a lot of smoke coming right now from the 82 car.
99, Mark Tooker continues to set the early pace here, and there's the black flag being given for car number 02.
That is the 02. We'll stand corrected. That's Charles Doherty. And Doherty, right now, black flag is out for him.
He is one of the top New England drivers coming down from Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts, driving an 82 Regal. And that's a big disappointment for him because he had high hopes for this event. This race is largely made up from East Coast drivers here, Pennsylvania, New England, New York, and right here in New Jersey. As a matter of fact, a good contingent of drivers that race weekly here are competing in this event that race on a weekly basis here at the Flemington Fair Speedway. Mark Tooker continues to set the pace, though, as he comes by to complete yet another lap in this 75-lap grind. And he is looking very impressive at this point. And things are starting to sort out. They're going single file up in the front here. Tooker is now heading through turns 3 and 4. This track, by the way, Roger, it's not your typical oval. It's basically known as a square track. A lot of equal turns all the way around. There are 4 turns, short straightaways in between those turns. So basically your setup, you don't need to worry about setting it up for any particular turn. Once you got that car dialed in, you can get hooked up here and it begins to turn very quick laps here.
And we have a spin as we're going into turn number 4. And the spin is Chris Benson Woods. Well, he's got to collect it back up. That's a look at the 12th car as he manages to continue on, and that's going to bring out the first caution of the afternoon here for this, the 12th running of the National Parks Peddler Street Stock Championship.
One thing, Roger, if we could center in on here while we're under this caution here, you'll note that in the corners of this raceway, something that has really been coming on strong in the last couple of years in asphalt racing, they place foam barriers in the corners here, and it really, really helps these drivers out in case that they do get out of shape and hit one of these walls here. And believe me, it really has helped a lot of drivers at several different raceways throughout the country. Foam barriers have really been an important part in the safety of racers.
As you get a look on your screen there, you'll see as they're marked in those particular ones, they're indicated for turn turn 3. As you get a look at it there, those they're actually styrofoam. It's a 3 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot block, and each one of them runs in the neighborhood of about $80. And they have literally saved thousands of dollars worth of expensive racing equipment out here, as they really do the job. As you get a look back across the infield, and you'll notice that unlike up in Pocono last year, where as you looked in the infield you saw a lot of campers, one of the things that was made here as a decision in terms of this year's Race of Champions here at Flemington, in order to provide the spectators with a better view of this racetrack, virtually every seat in here you can see all the way around the track. And the reason you can is because there are no campers or big trucks parked in the infield other than those that are necessary to be there as part of the racing operation here.
This is a true spectator's track, and Paul Cool is to be applauded for the fantastic job that he has done here. It was a big decision for him to go asphalt, but even before that, when it was dirt, this was always a race fan's track. He has always gone that extra distance to make it best for the fans here at Flemington.
And Dino, as you had mentioned, Paul Cool, he was in fact the 1991 Promoter of the Year. And earlier on in the day, Scott Fedorov had an opportunity to talk with Paul Cool.
Paul Cool, the winner.
And we'll get to that in just a moment, as the cars here are told to double up, and we should be going back to green flag racing. Now, in the event you were wondering, caution laps do count. And the caution came out, I believe it was lap number 6. And of course, your race leader, Mark Tooker, the man who started on the pole out of West Hampton Beach, New York, driving that 79 Chevy Malibu. He, by the way, is the car owner.
Roger, this is the first time this event is being held at a track other than Pocono International Raceway. This is the new home now of the Race of Champions. For the past 11 years, it was held at the 3/4 infield oval at the Pocono Mountain Speedway. And here at Flemington, as you mentioned, it is going to be a 75-lapper. Up there at Pocono for the past 11 years, it was only 40 laps, and they did not count the cautions. Now up here, because of the distance, the extra distance, they are going to go with the laps under yellow as counting them. As you see, car number 12 heading back out onto the raceway after a quick once-over in the pit area.
That's Chris Benson Woods making his way back out. And you see there as they come back out of, actually where you come onto the racing surface here is right out of turn number 1. And making his way back out, Chris Benson Woods, he'll pick up the rear of the field as we're getting set to go back to green flag racing.
Chris is out of Boylston, Massachusetts, driving a 1970 Chevelle. And he is one of the many New England drivers that have come down here. Hometown Speedway, his regular Saturday night speedway is Riverside Park Speedway up in Agawam, Massachusetts.
Now, those of you who follow the street stocks and also follow the modifieds throughout the course of the season, you probably are saying, you know, this race is being run awfully late in the year. And the reason for that is back on the weekend of September 26 and 27, everybody was here. The cars were inspected. They were all set to go, and the weatherman dumped that wet stuff all over this place, and we got rained out. And this was the first available opportunity for this race to be run. This is the 12th annual National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. And we have a tremendous field on hand here again.
And Roger, just to show you the importance and how big this event is, 117 cars came out this weekend attempting to qualify for the 44 positions that were available for today's starting event.
We'll be right back to see how things shape up as we continue the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. This is lap number 15 as the green flag is going to fall. Up front, it's Mark Tooker, Bruce Cook, Tom Fox, and Jack Orlando in that order, the top 4.
Tom Fox just made an excellent move, tucking in behind Mark Tucker on that restart as he just picked up that second spot. As you see them dicing for action down the back straightaway, there is some heavy action going on throughout this entire field now as they work their way around this 5/8 mile over. That's the number 33 car working his way up. He was in the top 5. Jerry Young Jr. He has fallen back one position right now in 6th place.
And Tom Fox in the 47 has picked up that number 2 slot right now as they race down the back straightaway into turn number 3.
It doesn't get any tighter than that, Roger. And they're in that 3rd spot, just out of your picture. Now coming in, car number 84, Bruce Cook. He is one of the drivers that has actually an unfair advantage here at the Flemington Fair Speedway. He runs here on a weekly basis, so he does have an upper hand on a lot of these guys that come in from out of town trying to get the right setup here. And it seems to be working out for him because there he is running up in the top 5 in 3rd spot right now.
Coming right down the front straightaway, looking at you, and that's the man we were talking about, Tom Fox, running in that number 2 slot. Right now, making a move back in the number 4 slot is a man who is moving up and has moved up. That's Dave Maycomer out of Mannersville, New York. You'll see him in that number 4 position right there in the car that looks a little bit like that of Kyle Petty's. He's just to the rear there.
He was a preferred starter in this event, and what I mean by that is that he got himself an upfront starting position from a qualifying event held earlier in the season at his home track, which happens to be the Waterford Speed Bowl in Connecticut. That is also where his hometown is. And you know, he started back in 10th position, and he is doing an excellent job right now of holding on to that 4th spot because there is a host of drivers behind him trying to work their way in. And look at that, moving into turn number 2 as we watch our leaders up in front. There's a lot of action going on right behind them. And already slower traffic, as you can see, playing a part in this event, and we are only about 25 laps into this one. Mark Tucker continues to set the pace here in that 99 car. Beautiful looking machine as the top 3 cars are going nose to tail. Car number 47 running in 2nd spot, Tommy Fox out of Plainfield, Connecticut. He also races up at the Waterford Speed Bowl and Thompson International Speedway, or Thompson Speedway, I shouldn't say international, but home of the World Series of Auto Racing, which was just recently held about 2 weeks ago. And Bruce Cook is also doing an impressive job here, keeping it right intact. They are virtually rafting, if you will, around this 5/8 miles, Roger.
This is a 75-lap event. It's going to take these cars about 46-plus miles to call this one in the book.
And this is the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Classic. National Parts Peddler putting on a big show in about a week from now up at the Syracuse Fairgrounds, the New York State Fairgrounds in Syracuse, New York.
That's a look at the race leaders as they come to the line. They'll be completing lap number 4 as the caution is out. We have a caution flag out on the track as the pace car pulls right out there in front of your race leaders. Unsure at this moment as to the reason for the caution. And we'll see if we can sort this out for you. Keep in mind that caution laps do count. And so the laps here under caution will be tacked on in terms of the number of laps in the book. And while we're running under caution, your race leader continues to be Mark Tucker in the 99. We'll be right back. And the pace car is going to move off of the track. We should be going green next time by. Keep your eye on the 99 car of Mark Tucker. He's the man on the pole, and he'll be looking for the green flag. Rogers comes out of turn number 4.
We're a quarter of a way through this event. 26 laps are complete as they go back to green. This is lap number 27 they are now completing.
And the green flag has fallen, and let's take you right now to the car that's running currently in the number 7 slot. That's Tony Sylvester.
Tony Sylvester is always a premier competitor when it comes to street stock competition. He always runs well in this event. He's a standout in his home state of Connecticut. He's at 11 in Connecticut, races weekly at the Waterford Speed Bowl. And 3 years ago in 1989, he finished 2nd in this event up at Pocono. And the winner of that event was none other than Phil Orondo, who was his teammate in that event. He was the owner of that car, so it was a banner day a couple of years back in this event for Sylvester, finishing first and second with his car. He was runner-up, and now he's doing an excellent job of trying to get to the front. He's currently now up to 5th spot.
And Dino, right now in second place, Bruce Cook has made a great move in order to pick off that number 2 slot.
Bruce Cook, one of the weekly drivers here. He started racing with the New Jersey Street Stock Racing Club a couple of years back. He is doing a lot of his racing between here. He's also raced at Wall Stadium, and also at New Egypt Speedway, not too far from here as well in New Jersey. And every once in a while he's ventured out into Pennsylvania at a place called Evergreen Raceway. And but here this year in 1992, he has called Flemington Fair Speedway his home track. And as you can see, he has the handle here, and he's trying to reel in the number 99 car of Mark Tucker, who has led since the drop of the green.
There you see Bruce Cook out of Jackson, New Jersey. As these cars continue to put laps in the book here, boy, I'll tell you right now, we've got a good race going here as lap number 32 has been recorded, and we've got trouble going in to turn number 2 as everybody is looking to get out of the way of a spin on the part of Dan Turbush.
That's, I believe that's Glenn Lipolis. We'll check that to make sure. That may be Glenn Lipolis.
Glenn Lipolis.
With the Razorback Racing Team. He is out of the New York area, the Southern Tier area. And,
we should tell you that one of the things here with respect to the numbers, and what happens is as they come in here, there are a lot of cars from different tracks that have the same numbers, and they sometimes black them out or put numbers over top of in order to be a single number, and sometimes a little confusing for us here in the booth. Let's see if we can give you another look at what happened here as the cars came out of turn number 1. Right there you saw those 2 cars as they kind of got together just a little bit.
And Roger, I have an update on that. That was Chuck Zentarski. Okay, Chuck Zentarski, who finished second in this event 1 year ago. And Chuck is always a premier competitor in street stock competition. He started this event back in 15th place. He is from West Haven, Connecticut in an 87 Buick Regal.
Chuck Zentarski is a very tough competitor on the track. He now has his work cut out for him, as he'll have to see what he can do to move from the back of the pack. We'll be back to see what happens. Still under caution. And still out in front, Mark Tucker. Bruce Cook continues to apply good pressure. Dave Maycomer has worked his way up into that number 3 slot as the green flag waves, and we are back and underway. Jerry Hildebrand in the 21 back out on the track, involved in that last altercation, bringing out the caution.
Jerry did go a lap down while under caution as they continued to move around the raceway. As we watch Mark Tucker continue to set the pace, and he got an excellent jump that time. He races weekly up at the Riverhead Raceway. It's in Long Island, New York. It's a tight quarter mile, but right here, this guy is really getting to flex his muscle as he's picking up speed and going up over 100 miles an hour. That's nothing that he's used to or common to up at the Riverhead Raceway, and he is doing an excellent job right now. He has set the pace from the drop of the green here. And in second place, just coming into your screen, you see it's the 84 of Bruce Cook. And a lot of action right behind him as he heads into turn number 2 here at the Flemington Fair Speedway.
Mark Tucker begins to open up. A little bit of daylight as you get a look back in the pack at the number 14 of Todd Anderson out of Shelton, Connecticut.
That's an excellent shot as they come underneath the starter stand here on the home stretch. And now get into that wide turn in turn number 1 here. That is where they really are able to pull out wide here. They want to try and get down as low as possible in the corners here at Flemington. And then you'll see they really spread out wide as they go in to the short chutes, if you will, because that's basically what makes up the straightaways here at Flemington.
Cook continues to be the man in pursuit of the guy out in front, Mark Tucker.
Roger, one of the things we were concerned about, and the drivers, is the condition here because of the cold weather. But with the fact that they're able to get a lot of these laps under green here, they are getting some rubber down on the raceway, and it is adding to them as far as getting a groove here, and it's making a big help here. The tires are able to be heated up, and that really adds to the traction.
And the caution flag is out. We've had a spin on lap number 46. And that is the number, I believe that is an 61, excuse me. And that is Greg Gastelou out of Farmingdale, New Jersey. His 71 Chevelle into the guardrail right there in turn number 2.
Greg is also one of the drivers that races here on a weekly basis, and also competes out at the New Egypt Speedway and Wall Stadium, and he began his racing career in street stocks through the New Jersey Street Stockers Racing Club, and unfortunately for him, he has hit that wall a ton out there going into turn number 2.
The car just came right around on him as he went into turn number 2, and we'll be back with more racing action. This is the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. Lap 50, and ducking into the pits as a result of the caution was Bruce Cook. That means it's Mark Tooker, Dave Maycomer. They are the guys up front, but moving up into that number 5 position in the 03, Ray Thies. And prior to the start of this afternoon's racing action, Donna Catrone had an opportunity to talk with Ray Thies.
More than one car out here tonight.
Yes, but first I would like to thank my sponsors, Oval Speed Unlimited and McBeth's Racing Engines, for making it possible for us to be here today. And we have, I think, 5 cars in the field today that we've built.
Wait, Ray, which cars are they?
Okay, my car is the number 3, Ed Polino in the number 45, Bob Sada in the number 6, Louis Main Street in the 64, and Howie Brady in the 96.
Well, I'm sure your heart's in a lot of cars today.
Oh, yeah. We hope one of them can come home a winner today.
I hope so. And so, Ray, what are your future plans for racing?
Our future plans are to go Busch Grand National Racing. If we can come up with a sponsor to help out with it, we can certainly do that. We have a shop, we have a crew, we have everything but the sponsor.
Okay, great. Well, lots of luck to you and all the cars out there today. Back to you, Roger and Dino.
Okay, thank you, Donna. And Ray Thies continues to run in that number 5 slot and looking for his opportunity to move up. But right now, it is still Mark Tooker, who started on the pole and has not relinquished it.
It's been a picture-perfect weekend for Mark Tooker, and as a matter of fact, even getting to this event. He won a qualifying event to get a preferred starting spot back at the Riverhead Raceway. He won that. He came here, started on the pole for his heat race. He won that, started on the pole here, and he has not given that up, as you said. By the way, the other heat winners here were John Orlando and Ed Spencer III, won the one of 3 heat races that were held here in getting the qualifying done for this street stock event.
You know, there are a lot of people that use this type of racing to make their moves up. And one of the things that is a big contributing factor to the success that guys have when they move to the Busch Grand National Tour is this kind of racing. Guys use this as a stepping stone, and this actually is as good as the modifieds in order to make you step up.
Absolutely. Some of the premier drivers in the country hoping to move up and advance to what we know as stock car racing, more basically Busch Grand National and eventually Winston Cup. Well, this is the way their road starts, the way they climb up the ladder. It begins right here in this class of racing.
Right now, Mark Tooker continues to conduct a clinic out here as he continues to open up a lot of daylight. That's the battle for second. And take a look at Tony Sylvester, who has now moved up into that number 3 slot. And Jerry Young Jr. currently running 4th. Ray Thies in that number 5 slot.
That is a tight battle, all for the runner-up position. The 42 car has really done a nice job. Dave Maycomer. He has been holding on to that spot. Actually, he inherited it when Bruce Cook pitted under that most recent caution, and he is not ready to give that up at all. But I'll tell you, Tony Sylvester, who's running in that 2nd spot right now and is really throwing a lot of pressure at him, is giving it all he's got, and he he is a top-notch competitor when it comes to this event. He would like nothing better than to go home with that trophy for the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Classic here today. And now he's making a move to the outside as they're coming off that fourth corner. This is a bid for the second spot.
Right down the front straightaway, side by side they go into turn number 1. That's the race for second place right now. Jerry Young Jr. sitting in that number 3 slot, but here is Tony Sylvester out of Flemington, Connecticut, picking off that number 2 slot. And he's got his sights set on the 99 of Mark Tooker.
He has a lot of clear racetrack in front of him now because Tooker has a very commanding lead right now. It's going to take a lot of power for him to reel him in. There is nothing between the first 2 cars right now. Tooker holding a commanding lead. Oh, and we have a caution, Roger, on a turn number 4.
As you see your race leaders come by right there, you see that styrofoam block that we had talked about earlier, and somebody into the wall right there in turn number 4, coming out of turn 4.
Gino Valente has really hit that wall, and there you could see as the car sits idle out there off that fourth corner, what happens when they hit one of those foam barriers. Everything just explodes in a sea of white. It looks like it's almost snowing out there. To the
You
fans
took the
that are
words
sitting
right
close
out of
to
my
it.
mouth, Dino. It does. It looks like a snowstorm, and it just throws it up there. And throughout the course here, even on the warm-up lap, some things left over from yesterday. It almost looked a little bit like snow on occasion, and it was simply the wind from the cars blowing that around. As you get a look there at exactly what we're talking about in terms of turn number 1. That's Gino Valente out of Bohemia, New York, and his 83 Chevy parked into the wall right there. They're going to work to get him away. It's lap number 61. Keep in mind, caution laps count. We're drawing down to the conclusion.
That was a beautiful race car, and don't count him out. He could still run into the pits, get that car fixed. And I should point one thing out. He must be a big Darrell Waltrip fan because that is modeled after the Western Auto number 17 Chevy that Waltrip runs on the Winston Cup circuit.
You're watching the 12th annual National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. Back in a moment with the closing laps. Well, lap number 64 being recorded right there. Let me tell you, when these guys are running, they're really moving. Just a little bit earlier, Mark Tooker, who's running out in front, recorded a lap of 108.277 miles per hour. These guys are moving. For those of you who are race fans and follow this, you'll know that many times on the Winston Cup Tour, on some of the short tracks, you don't see those kinds of speeds. These guys are really doing a great job. And right now, in that number 38 car, it is Sylvester who's moved up to number 2nd and the benefactor of the caution.
That caution absolutely played into his hands. He has a very fast car out there, and if there's anyone I feel at this point that can catch Mark Tooker, Sylvester is certainly the man in that position. With the field now bunched up, and they're going to go green this time by.
Dave Maycomer is currently running 3rd. Then it's Jerry Young Jr. running 4th. Ray Thies is running 5th. And in the number 97 car, here's a story for you. Right there, you see him, that black 97, Jeff Bowden.
Fantastic job today. Got the final qualifying spot as the green flag is back out on this event with just 10 laps to go. Started 40th, and due to all the cautions and some great driving, he has worked his way all the way up to 6th position, and he could even advance further before this one's over. As you see the 97 now heading down the back straightaway, trying to pick up a top 5 spot with only 10 laps remaining, Roger.
Mark Tooker started on the pole. He's been there throughout the course of the entire race. And right now, it is Tony Sylvester beginning to apply some pressure as he knows this one is coming to a close.
Sylvester has him in his sights right now. Tooker holds the advantage as they come off that 3rd corner heading down the home straightaway. One more time to complete, just a few more laps, and he is going to have to make his move and make it soon.
Mark Tooker driving that 79 Chevy Malibu, beginning to feel the pressure of Tony Sylvester in that 80 Buick Regal.
Sylvester knows what it feels like to be a runner-up in 1989. That is the position he finished in, right behind the man who he had another car involved, Phil Rondow, who won that event. He was the car owner on that machine, and he does not want to settle for that today. I assure you, he is going all out for the win here and getting every inch of horsepower out of that number 38 car that he possibly can.
Tooker with about a 4-car length lead over Tony Sylvester. And well, he opens it up a little bit coming through turn number 1, as you saw. And a spin is going to bring out the caution. That's between turns 3 and 4. And I believe that is Scott Riegelman, yes, out of Farmingdale, New Jersey. Spun that 74 Chevy Malibu and has brought out the caution.
You know, looking at Scott Riegelman, and there is also another car that has spun, the 10 car that was put in as a promoter's option. That is Bob Slippy out of East Concord, New York. But if I can just get back to the fact that the driver we just mentioned from New Jersey, a big thing here that a lot of guys were concerned about was the New Jersey drivers that run here on a weekly basis may have had the upper hand here, but unfortunately for them, it hasn't worked into their part, and the New England drivers are once again dominating this event as they have so many times in the past in the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship here. As we see up in front, a couple of guys out of Long Island and Connecticut running up in the front of this pack, as well as the entire top 5, all hailing from up in the New England area.
This is lap number 70, and that means 5 more to go. Dino, this is going to come down to an all-out sprint to the checkered flag. It's really going to get interesting.
Mark Tooker may have led every lap here, but the only one that really counts in the end is that final one, the 75th lap, and Tony Sylvester is really going to have to make his move within the next 5 circuits.
You don't want to touch that dial. We'll be right back with the closing laps of the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. Well, now we have been telling you that caution laps don't count. The last 10 laps of the race, you cannot record them under caution. They have to be run. So here's the deal. We got 5 laps remaining. And I'll tell you what, lap money is a big thing out here. It means a lot to these guys.
A lot of people sponsor laps here, and Mark Tooker has collected a ton of it, almost $2,000 so far. And aside from that, he can also collect a hefty payday that goes to the winner of this event. It could be a banner day for Tooker. And again, he has pulled out to a nice lead here. What a jump he gets every time that green flag falls after a restart here. He has just been unstoppable in this event.
Mark Tooker out of turn number 4 has 4 laps to go. As you get a look at some of the cars there, that second and third was right there on your screen. That is Sylvester and Jerry Young.
Well, Sylvester was trying his best to get Tooker. May now have to worry about his own position. That is the second position, because the 33 car of Young is now trying to make his move and pick up the runner-up spot with just 3 laps to go.
Mark Tooker continues to run very, very tough. He started on the pole, and this time he will be getting the 2 laps to go sign.
Roger, this is by far one of the most impressive runs in the 12 events that were held in this Street Stock Classic event here. And Mark Tooker is certainly going down as one of the most dominant wins in the 12 years that they've been running this. As the white flag waves, he has only 5/8 of a mile to go.
Mark Tooker, who started on the pole, you saw the white flag. It's out for him. In heavy pursuit continues to be Tony Sylvester and the 33 of Jerry Young. But it is going to be Mark Tooker with just 1 more left turn to go, looking for the checkered flag. Mark Tooker out of West Hampton Beach, New York, the winner of the 12th Annual Street Stock Championship. Finishing in that number 2 slot was the 38 of Sylvester, then the 33 of Jerry Young.
Then it was Dave Maycomer, who finished in 5th position, driving the 42 car. And in car number 1, coming back from 39th position, Rick Giannino, one of the New Jersey drivers that races weekly here. Well, he was the highest finishing driver from the Flemington regulars.
And boy, you get that close. I guess at this point of the season, you kind of let it all hang out. A couple of guys that tangled coming out of turn number 4 that time and will not finish this particular race.
That was 3 cars that were involved. We're looking at 2 of them. There's another one just to the right of these cars, up against the turn 4 guardrail. And when it's that last lap, you want to get every possible position. This is low-dollar racing here, Roger, for these street stockers, so every position means something to them as far as the payday goes here for those that were racing in the back of the pack. It's the final event of the year for them.
And you know, we can't say enough about Mark Tooker and the way that he managed to take this one all the way from the beginning. You get a look at the young man out of West Hampton Beach, New York, and we're going to give you another look at what this looked like coming down to the wire. Here is Mark Tooker taking the checkered flag. You see the interval there between he and Sylvester. Jerry Young picked up that close third.
That was about the closest anyone got to him throughout the day, Roger. As you noticed in that 75 lapper, he had the advantage of starting from the pole. It was a picture-perfect weekend, as I mentioned earlier, winning his heat race. He won a preferred starting spot in order to get here, so taking all the money as well, all the lap prize money, plus there's an additional $2,000 from Sunoco to go along with all the first place prize money with this, and a very handsome trophy, I might add.
Dino and I will be back with a real quick recap right after this. The 12th Annual National Parts Peddler Racing Championship won by Mark Tooker. Back in a minute. Well, the 12th Annual Street Stock Championship, the National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship, is history. Mark Tooker started on the pole. He led every single lap, going to take home a big payday, and Scott Federoff is going to talk to him about it. He's got him in victory lane.
Okay, Mark Tooker, you put this thing in your pocket. You went from the beginning to the end. What was the turning point for you?
The turning point was the preparation. We were just prepared for this race. We won the heat like we planned on doing. I was fortunate enough to pick the pole, and then I was just able to keep out in front of those guys and keep running, and the car got better and better as the show went on, just like we planned. It was all in the preparation.
No mechanical problems, no glitches?
None whatsoever. It just ran like a top.
That doesn't happen very often in this sport. Back to you, Roger and Dino.
You know, Mark Tooker is going to take home a great payday, Dino, and, you know, in the times that we've watched races, a lot of times guys will start on the pole and keep it there. He ran a flawless race.
For 75 laps to go out and do something like that, especially at this particular track, that is an accomplishment not only of the driver, but the crew and the entire operation that got him here was picture perfect. And another thing, too, is the dominance of the Long Island, New England drivers in this event. They seem to have got the handle on this Parts Peddler event here, and they continue it here in 1992.
You know, a lot of times when we came out here, we thought maybe the weather would be a factor, maybe tires would be a factor, and perhaps the track itself might be a little bit slippery. That didn't seem to be the case once we got started.
No, once these guys got going under green here, as we mentioned, they were able to get a lot of heat into those tires, and that added to the adhesion that they needed to get the cars to stick properly, especially in the corners here. And virtually it was a pretty good race, a pretty clean race, despite a couple of accidents that were actually minor when you look at it. There was no serious injuries, and it was a pretty clean race here this year.
You know, one of the guys that did a great job in that number 38 car, the one that looks like the Tiger, Tony Sylvester, and you know, he did a great job in working his way up and really put a lot of pressure on, finished a strong second.
Tony very rarely misses one of these annual events here, the Street Stock Parts Peddler event here, and once again he has to settle for the bridesmaid position. It happened to him in 1989. Tried like the dickens to reel him in, but he just didn't have the horsepower. There was no stopping Tooker today, and again he'll have to settle for the number 2 position. We'll have to wait and see what happens next year.
You know, a lot of the things that make a big difference in terms of these street stock racers when they come out here is the payday. Mark Tooker took home a big one. He got all that lap money as well as the prize.
He doesn't have to worry until 1993 to start racing again. I couldn't think of a better way to close out a season.
Hey, listen, congratulations to all of the racers and participants in this, the 12th Annual National Parts Peddler Street Stock Championship. For the entire sports crew here at Flemington, for Dino Alberto, I'm Roger Snyder. So long.